Nioh 3 is long, and it drops you a ton of loot, and it has many systems to engage with. If you'd rather play the game without bothering with too much of those systems, and absolutely bully your way through the whole experience, treating bosses like trash mobs, this build is for you. Let me give you an overview first. In this build, I'm playing both samurai and ninja. I'm not favoring one. And the nice thing here is that it's still one build and concept. So it's not like I'm building them as two different characters. This gives me the flexibility to switch when I feel like it or when I need based on the encounter. I'm happy to play both. You can work on this build from the start. Just knowing what you're looking for makes it so easy to ignore all the noise and focus on the things that I'll show you. And the build will keep improving as you go along. This is an early game and endgame build. And as you can see, I'm absolutely spanking this boss the first time I met him, and I don't even know what he's doing. And if you look at my gear, I'm actually wearing trash gear. Look at that 25 and 40. I did not care to pay any attention to this, and I melted the boss without using a single heal. I actually removed healing elixirs from the bar after this fight. Dealing with the blacksmith is optional here. You can completely ignore her, and you won't feel you missed anything. Now let's go through the details. My weapons of choice are the Odachi and the tonfas, and I'm pretty sure you can make this build work with nearly any weapon combo you want. Those are just the ones I like, and I'll show you why they help make this build shine. But let me show you the skill points first. As you can see, the tonfas scale with constitution, strength, and skill. And from the left to right, that's the highest to lowest scaling, while the Odachi scales with stamina, strength, and magic. Yes, magic for some reason. But anyway, let's look at the point distribution. If I put all my points in constitution, since it's the primary stat for the tonfas, I'll get 128 attack for the tonfas, 1460 health, and nothing for the Odachi. If I do the same for the Odachi, which means points in stamina, I'll also get no attack buffs to my tonfas. Now if I dump it all in strength, I'll get nearly the same attack buffs for both weapons. 127 instead of 128 is pretty insignificant. And I'll get half of the HP, but I kind of don't care about HP, which I'll show you why later. So the obvious thing for me is to perma-dump points in strength for raw damage, and only put points in other stats based on necessity, like equipped cores or gear activation. And I know that the scaling isn't linear, so when you're invested like 60 plus points, secondary stats will probably give you more value in terms of attack. But my goal here is to keep both weapons close to each other because I want to be able to play both. Cores are kind of the star of the show here, or basically the only thing you actually need to get this off the ground. So let's go to the Onmyo box and check them out. In my first Yang slot, we have Nupepo. You get this soul core in the first map near the end. It's when you chase and beat this chubby dude, and it's unmissable. So you will have it by level 25 or 30. It's around here on the map. You see him on your way out of Hamamatsu Castle as you follow the story. Now this dude gives us 100 life, and more importantly, he lets us heal when we absorb Amrita. And that's kind of our game plan here. Note that for this to be active, I have to spend 17 points in magic. So that's mandatory in a way, but magic also increases my Odachi attack, so I'm not complaining. And once the second slot is unlocked, I'm probably going to use something like this one, which has pretty good damage and armor bonuses, and lets me move faster when I absorb Amrita, which we will be doing all the time. And it even increases quick attack damage, so why not? This comes from the wolf dudes in the snow in the second map. Now for the Yin position, since we spend 17 points, that means we can equip 4 of these. The most important one is Extraction Talisman, which you will get from the Gaki Chief enemies. You meet those super early, you literally can get this in the demo, so you definitely have it. And the level does not matter here, because what it does doesn't scale. So I have a level 8 and a 31, makes no difference. It only would if we were using it in the Yang position. So we get that in our top slot. From the Yang position, we saw that we are healing when we get Amrita. So what we need to do is obviously make sure we have a stream of Amrita. This talisman is key for maintaining that, but it's not even the only source. It's critical to understand how this healing works because it can be easily misleading. I will explain it thoroughly in a bit, but let's look at the rest of the cores first. Technically, the rest is customizable and up to you, but for me, to both be immortal and do as much damage as I can, here's what I'm using. Power Talisman from the Onryoki Soul Core, which adds a flat increase to attack. This also comes pretty early, it's from those yokai or later Onryoki. Mine came from this dude. It was part of a quest that takes you to the shrine at Lake Sonaru on the western side of the first map. I'm nearly sure this is 100% drop rate from this dude. Nearly. The third slot seems to work for me, so I never needed to change it, and I just buff my weapons with fire. So I have the Fire Talisman, and this comes from the little fire blobs that you find in the first map. And if somehow you don't have it yet, this is probably the best place to farm it, in the Rimstone Pool in the Haunting Caves. There's one of those dudes here, right at the shrine. Shoot from a distance and see if he drops it. And if he doesn't, just tap the shrine to respawn him. It's pretty easy, I just did this now for the recording, and I got one on the third kill. If you really care about a certain boss's elemental weakness, you can replace this with wind or water or whatever element you need for a specific fight. And since I don't want more than 4 slots because I'm lazy, then there's 1 slot left, and that's a tie between the last 2 options I'm going to show you. The first one is the Mermaid, and it gives you Life Leech. This is not a buff on you, but it's a debuff on the enemy. So you can use it on one target, which will increase your healing because you're now healing with Amrita from hits, and on top of that, you're healing from the actual damage you deal directly. This gives you 3 charges, and it's a hefty boost to healing if you need it. You first meet mermaids in the second map, which is around here in this area. You run into 3 or 4 of them the first time you meet them, so you'll probably get the core the first time you fight them. The second candidate for this lot, which is what I ended up settling on, is the Mujina Soul Core. Again, another one you can get super early. You can see mine is level 19, and it comes from those little dudes that jump at you from chests, or at Jizu shrines where you have to pay and pray, and then do the same emote as the clone does. I don't remember ever doing this, and I've had it since the demo, so I'm pretty sure you can get it in other ways. In any case, this literally gives you 4 lives. It's a combat res, so you have 5 lives. You actually need to try hard to be able to lose with this build. Obviously, this will revive you with low health, and you will lose all your buffs, but it's really a safety net if you run into a boss that just hits really hard and somehow your healing isn't keeping up. This lot is also a candidate for healing elixirs if you really want the safety of that. But for me, I'm too old to keep switching, so I'm only using 4 shortcuts, and that's why I ditched the elixirs. Now before we look at the rest of the build, let me explain as clear as possible how this healing works. This healing does not scale. It's a flat amount. So do not be fooled thinking that if you do more damage, you will heal more. You won't. Or if you gain more Amrita in value, you will heal more. You won't. So stats like this, for example, do not affect your healing. Now here's how it works. You see this stream of gold flying towards me? Each time one of those arrives, I get healed for 22. It doesn't matter if each one of those gives me 1 or 10 Amrita in value, which makes it obvious how we can increase that healing. You guessed it, we need lots of instances of damage because each one of those is a hit and it triggers an Amrita delivery, which I guess leads us to talk about gear and skill choices. Let's look at gear first. Before you get confused, I'm using the Type B rarity colors, which looks like this. As a Diablo or Warcraft player, that's the right color order for me. As you can see, I'm using this Stomper, which has a nice buff for damage in the air, and in Ninja, I'm mostly flying. But generally, if I find a better Tonfa, I'll equip it. I'm just looking for damage. Luckily, this cannon has the stat that we're after. It adds 2 to my healing when I get Amrita. This piece is level 25, but has 3 healing, and I'm keeping it. You can see my ninja is pretty weak in toughness, yet he can't die. And the moment I get a new headpiece that has life recovery, it will be 80 or something, and it will boost him significantly in toughness. This one has auto life when I evade. I do that often enough, so that's another heal. This one's new, and it has the life recovery that we need, but I haven't activated it yet. Those 2 pieces are whatever right now. And for accessories, this is pretty useful. Pleiades increases the charge rate of the Amrita gauge, and it triggers off of Amrita gain which we're doing all the time. The second one is whatever. I was using this one, which heals me on fire damage, and as you saw, I'm buffing my weapons with fire all the time. It's actually pretty good because it's proportional to the damage, not a flat amount, so this one actually scales. And for my samurai, I equipped the highest damage Odachi I could find, same gun, and then I've got life recovery here, and on those pieces, and even my accessories. Any other stat is secondary to me. That being said, an important one to find if you don't have life recovery is this one, gain Amrita on strong attacks. This creates another instance of Amrita delivery, and as you will see later, we're mostly using strong attacks in Samurai. When you progress further into the game, you will unlock clans, and one of those will also give you life recovery on Amrita gain. Those are all the possible sources to increase that flat healing number, which you can see here in the status menu for each style. Now let's look at Guardian Spirits and skill management. For Guardian Spirits in Ninja, I started using Enko mainly because of this. I'm setting enemies on fire often enough, so the damage buff is welcome. But I was also using others, so it's not a critical thing. For Samurai, I'm using this one mainly because it has a heal and it buffs my strong attack damage. In skill management, under Common, the most important one is Awakening, and you get that from an early battle scroll. The Way of the Onmyo Novice, I believe. So you probably have this one, and you can only have one mastery active. And this one helps us with the talismans we're using, because we will occasionally need to rebuff ourselves with 3 of them, so I don't want the animation to hinder the action. I'm using Attack Mastery 1 and 2, Key Sapping Follow-up because I often stagger the enemies quickly, and I have Fortitude 2 just to fit the current limit. For Samurai, I'm using Defense Mastery 1. There's a 2 that I didn't have yet when I recorded this. Samurai's Cloak protects me from ranged attacks, which is mostly for groups of enemies if I'm dealing with a few and some ranged dude is on top of a building shooting at me. And the most important ones are those. Unshakable reduces the damage I take when I'm attacking. Resilient Arts, which increases the damage of strong attacks when Arts proficiency is active, which is most of the time. And the drawback is that it slows filling the art gauge, which is insignificant compared to how fast we already fill it. And the most important one is Oppressive Strength, which also prevents us from being staggered when arts is active. You'll see why all those make sense when I show you how it plays. And lastly for the ninja, I'm using Butterfly's Grace. This is perfect for me because it reduces the damage I take in the air and I'm flying all the time. And even better, Aerial Strike increases my damage when I'm flying too. Backstab Life Siphon. No harm here. I often position myself easily behind enemies, and even in the air, it counts as attacks from behind. So that's another spam of free heals. Wrathful Dragon increases the elemental damage received on an enemy when you hit with ninjutsu. It does increase the damage we take from elemental attacks too, but we don't care. Like I said, this is my current priority based on the limit. I'd also like to have Snakebite Technique, Illusionary Dragon, and Dodging maybe. One last thing about the limit, or skill capacity here, that will increase naturally with exploration and progress, but you can get 1 extra point in each category if you want. To do that, you go to the Sudama in the Eternal Rift, and they will offer you a one-time exchange for 4 copies of each of the 3 books. Each 4 of these will give you 1 extra point in Common, Samurai, and Ninja. Now let's look at the weapons and see how and why I use them. First up is the Odachi. My grappling is Dragonhorn. This is a crucible skill, so you will find it on a weapon with a red crucible icon. Once you do, equip it, max out the familiarity, which will allow you to use Dragonhorn on any Odachi. And whenever an enemy is open, that's what I use, because it fills up the spirit force like crazy. That's why I don't care about any negative effect sources. You can see here everything is just filling up. Spirit Force, Amrita Gauge, whatever. I'm not worried about those filling up at all. In high stance, I love Thunderbolt, but I'm not often in high stance, so I don't use it as much as I'd like. Still a strong attack, so it can generate Amrita if you have the stat that I mentioned earlier on the gear. Twin Moons is also pretty cool, with 2 strong attacks at the end. Retrograde Flow is another awesome skill in both high and low stance. and it applies water element if you need, but only in high stance. The water part, that is. This one you get from the little flying cute Chicos right here on the first map. This one. As much as I like parrying as a Souls-like player, I'm rarely in mid-stance, and as much as I love using bolting boar, this build makes me not parry at all in this game. I'm just face tanking and constantly attacking like a machine gun. And in low stance, I tend to use Severing Blade if I need to close the distance. And last but not least, in low stance, this is the star of the show for Samurai, Ground Sweeper. This skill makes you pretty mobile, because you move diagonally pretty quick. It's an AoE skill with pretty good tracking. Your only limitation is your ki. And the best part is, when your art proficiency is active, it costs you nothing. A spam of quick, heavy, damaging attacks that will heal you. You take reduced damage and immune to being staggered, and you do more damage as we saw in our skills, with unshakable, resilient arts and oppressive strength. Oppressive indeed. This dude never knew what hit him. This way, with this build, I use Samurai if a specific boss encounter dictates it, or for groups of enemies because Ground Sweeper is insane, and once the boss is staggered or slowed in any way, I switch to Samurai for some good damage and finish off with Dragon Horn. Now, I'm also a big fan of the Ninja, and this is where it all comes together. As I explained earlier with the healing, to have better healing, you need a flow of hits, using any weapon you like that has a flurry of attacks, like the spear, or the samurai boxing gloves, or the dual swords for ninja. My choice here is Tonfa's, and it's mainly for two things. I can spam infinite multi-hit combos, both on the ground and in the air, and being in the air helps me avoid a lot of stuff. Plus, my enemies have constant dots on them from the fire or poison or whatever type of projectile I throw at them. So I got multi-hits and damage over time also counting as hits, which will all send me a Marita and heal me. All I need to do is be a relentless attacker. Let me show you. First thing is the actual ninja skill tree. You can see I barely cared to spend anything. I've got 52 points. I'm currently using paralysis, poison, and fire shurikens, and that's simply a filler that I apply every now and then if I pull out of melee range to keep some debuffs on the target while I rebuff. So I still have some Amrita rolling. So if it's fire, or whatever element you prefer for a certain fight, you have the variety of elements to throw at the enemy. That's up to you. The bread and butter skills here are those ones. Demon Dance, which doesn't really show you the full combo here. If you dash right after attacking, you have an increased invulnerability window, and you can follow up with a very long flurry of hits, and you can chain this literally for as long as you have ki. And you can use the dash to position behind the enemy, which means back attacks. I'm using controls type F here, and if you want to know why, please check out my previous tips video. And obviously, the quick hits will keep generating Amrita. And on top of that, you can do something similar in the air. My go-to skill here is Sacred Fire. This puts me in the air, then I can follow with Flying Drill if I timed it wrong and I need to get closer, or spam Flying Chariot to get tons of hits in the air. And that's not all. You still have the second double jump, so you can do more normal quick attacks in the air, and then finish off with a downward hit, or dash to the side in between any of those attacks to reposition. And if you put yourself behind the enemy in the air, that still counts as back attacks, which will both do more damage and heal us. And remember, we use skills that reduce the damage we take and increase the damage we do in the air. No boss has given me any trouble in the game. I have not touched the forge, I still have a ton of unspent martial arts points, and I nearly have garbage gear. Yet I'm just playing the game, enjoying the combat and progress, without sitting there looking at menus all day. Have you tried this build or something similar? Please let us know in the comments if I missed anything or if you have some ideas to improve it. And if this guide helped you enjoy the game more and you'd like to support the channel, I've listed a few ways in the description. It helps me keep making detailed guides like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Well done. I knew I wasn't wrong about you.